Hi, this is Keith Larson, Content Director with Smart Industry. It's my privilege to talk today with Mike Tomasco, Vice President of Digital Manufacturing for Pfizer. Pfizer was recently honored as a DX Trailblazer in Smart Industry's 2020 Transformational Leadership Awards. And congratulations on the recognition, Mike. It's a real pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you very much, Keith. Very excited to be here and be a part of the Smart Industry Award as a digital trailblazer.
Great. Well, we're happy to hear more about the digital transformation efforts that you've been a part of there at Pfizer.
All right, so as we go through this today, we're going to take you on a little bit of a story about what our digital manufacturing transformation journey was all about for what we call Pfizer Global Supply. And before we get into anything, let me put the standard legal disclaimer up on the screen. These opinions are expressed solely by me, not the opinion of the company, so on and so forth. So with that, Keith, why don't we take it away?
All right, great. For our audience members who may not be familiar with Pfizer, can you just start off by maybe telling us a little bit more about your company, what kind of products you manufacture in the markets that you serve?
Sure. So Keith, the purpose of Pfizer is to create breakthroughs that change patients' lives. And this is a very profound statement. We're not talking about creating individual medicines to do certain things. We're talking about truly finding breakthroughs that impact the patient journey in a positive way. And as we go through that, a little bit about our company for context. So Pfizer's over a $50 billion company as of the end of last year. We have 42 manufacturing sites worldwide. We operate in 125 countries, over 88,000 colleagues. So it's a sizable company. And if we deep dive into Pfizer Global Supply, the thing that I think that we're most proud of is we make around 23 billion doses of medicine every year. So that is 23 billion times we have the potential to positively impact a patient. And that's what the company's all about. Pfizer Global Supply has 28,000 colleagues across those 42 sites, but our supply network's much bigger. We have 315 contract manufacturers. And if you look at the one stat there, the 615 products proliferate into 17,000 different SKUs. So there's a lot of items to manage and complexity in our supply chain. And most of our products are not single facility products. They're made across multiple plants within that supply chain.
And I imagine they come out in different packaging formulations and different combinations, and that's what further complicates things. Yeah.
That is certainly where the 17,000 variations come from, for sure.
Well, tell me more about the Pfizer Global Supply Digital Transformation Program, which is what really has caught the attention of our judges for the awards here. How did it come to be? Who leads it? What are its goals in the organization?
What a great question, Keith. Thank you.
Good straight man here. Yeah.
What we're really trying to think about here is creating a digital thread throughout PGS. And if I go back in time, it was 2016 when our president of manufacturing had a call to action to all of his direct reports, of which our digital organization was a part of as well as an enabling capability. And that call to action was being good isn't good enough, or being great isn't good enough. We need to do more. We need to be thinking forward. And he kicked off a transformation journey, so to speak. But what that meant to us was, well, what does it mean to us? We had to figure that out. It was a wide open canvas. We had been operating since around 2013 under an IT strategy related to the supply chain operation reference model, or the SCORE model, and looking at strategic capabilities that we were putting into place to fill gaps in our functional capability areas or process areas. What that led to was a very good focused implementation of core global solutions that serve certain purposes, whether it's an ERP system, a global LIMS system, or even the Factory Talk MES Pharma Suite capability that we use here at Pfizer in the manufacturing execution space. We had 40 some odd versions of a core manufacturing system. But what we noticed was they weren't always connected, right? So they served a great functional purpose, But with everything going on in the industry and the technology changes over the years, everything started to look like it was about connectedness of people, process, data. And we kind of said, okay, if we could take a blank slate and start over, what would this look like if we started today? And we didn't constrain ourselves to what we've been doing and came up with a really holistic picture that said, how do I go from where I am today into what we want this to be, which is the picture on the screen of this digital thread through the operation and up into management. Now, at the same time in this journey, in parallel, you had our operational excellence group in manufacturing developing a system they called IMEX, or Integrated Manufacturing Excellence, so a lean manufacturing program. And when we got together, it was very quick for all of us to notice these things were complementary to one another and they enabled each other. So the idea of creating a new organization structure for how you want your plant to run, or new processes and codifying how standard work is done, could be greatly enhanced through digital capabilities. So a good portion of our digital transformation lined up directly with this idea of integrated manufacturing excellence and enabling lean manufacturing. That's not the only thing we've been focused on, but it really helped us get a foothold into customer relationships as we went through the capabilities.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Were there specific, I guess what I'd call before conditions, or things that you were trying to improve production-wise, or is more business opportunity that you were going after that really compelled you to go after this manufacturing excellence as well as the digital transformation initiative?
Well, here's a picture of what we had back at the time. Now, this is an eye chart, but this is the simplified version of the eye chart. So on the left-hand side, you have what we would say our current state was around 2016. So we call this digital silos and limited operational visibility. And if I look at some key things here, there's some red boxes around capabilities. Down in the bottom left, our process control systems and automation systems. As much as we have those in place, you couldn't gain access to them. Knowledge is locked away in these silos. There's a very purposeful spaghetti code of wires there in the middle that illustrated every time we wanted to serve a customer at the top, we created one of these analytical capabilities that served that customer base, and we were reinventing the wheel time and time again. There wasn't a lot of reuse in those. So if you think about that operating environment and then you move to what could it be? What's that ideal state look like? The first thing we did is actually implemented a cybersecurity program. So we went full into the assessment of how do we make sure that the plants are secure, the operating environment secure, but at the same time, how do we create a channel of connectivity off of the shop floor so that when we have these other capabilities in place, we can take advantage of that data that was previously locked away. So that was a key component. You can see a few things on the right-hand side that are in blue there. Yeah, it's the industrial Internet of Things and sensors and data historians. These are all things that we had little pieces of before, but we wanted to put holistic programs around to, again, multiply that value off the shop floor. One of the big differences is in the middle of the picture. Instead of everyone pulling the data they needed to make some sort of decision, you're building the traditional data lake. Now, this picture is very simplified. It's not one big puffy cloud with one set of analytics on top of it. It's probably 20 different actual technologies when you look at all the pieces. But the idea is put all your data in one place so you can take advantage of it at scale. Another differentiator for us in the vision was this concept of the operations center and making that a persona-based experience. So we're leading everything with this experience discussion of how do we want people to interact with the process or interact with data to have these insights that drive capability. So the real approach we took was related to some work that a few of us have done in the industry around a digital plant maturity model that was created through this Bioform consortium of biopharma companies. It's very straightforward in that there's a pre-digital world, and then you have silos, connectedness, predictive and adaptive capabilities. And you looked at hundreds of processes of how you operate a biomanufacturing plant and supply chain. And we defined as an industry, what does it look like? What does good look like within each of these silos? If I took this snapshot in 2016, I had many more pre-digital percentages down there for my plants. a bunch in the digital silo with our core solution capabilities, very tiny bit leading towards digitization. And we've really started to move the needle for all of our plants up this chain. Every plant's on an individualized journey, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You don't say, I'm going to go become a predictive plant. That's not what this is about. It's about looking at the capabilities that you need to drive business value, tying that to what we have in our digital arsenal, and then putting in place those pieces to help that plant solve its problems. So that's really what we were trying to drive all towards. And there's a question there about capabilities and systems. So we have this picture that tries to blend a very simplified view of that plant picture from before, married with this concept of tiers of management accountability from the operational excellence program. So imagine tier 0 being your shop floor, tier 6 being your executive leadership or your president, in our case, of manufacturing. And what we focused on a lot in the beginning, and even prior to the digital transformation, was in these silos that you see here in that shop floor type location, whether it's an ERP system, and as I talked about before, our LIMS, our laboratory systems, and our MES and all that. But then we're adding into it a whole suite of IoT tools built with Factory Talk Innovation Suite and PTC ThingWorks, our unified data hub, providing this visibility, decision science. We're creating reusable analytics that can be used through this Operations Center experience, all built on this master data foundation. That is our utopia. We are driving towards it every day. The journey's not done. So we're 4 years into the journey, and as much as we have accomplished, we feel like there's still a lot more to do.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're off to a good start, though. Talk a little bit about the people factor, I guess. Digital transformation clearly requires you understand and implement new and often disruptive technologies, unfamiliar things for many of your employees. What steps do you take to ensure your workforce is up to these new tasks? And how do you work with your technology suppliers to complement your internal capabilities?
Well, it's fair to say that when you work with a digital transformation program, the word change is embedded in the program name. So transformation implies large-scale change. And I can say in the beginning, when we started the effort, it was extremely disruptive. The thought process of just putting that future-looking picture out there, that meant that somebody who worked on one of those individual siloed capabilities lost their ownership over that siloed capability. The whole idea was to connect these things together, and how do we take them on that change journey? So that was a challenge in and of itself. And at the same time, we were going through digital transformation ourselves of how we operate. So we were moving from a waterfall methodology that is very popular in the biopharma world because of GXP compliance purposes and all the regulations. You have to ensure that what you're building and making is what it is. So it wasn't uncommon back before we started this journey towards Agile for us, that we'd have a program that had 5,000 pages of test scripts and 1,000-page training documents and all these things that make it difficult for our user community to actually be involved in the process and understand what's going on. So we started to move towards Agile development, started off with simple Scrum teams, and we got to a stage where we weren't seeing the throughput that we expected anymore. It was one of those things as a leader you get somewhat frustrated with, because Agile is supposed to be the promised land of delivery, continuous delivery, right? And you keep running into these circles and you're not delivering what you expect. And we thought about this for a while, right? Like, why is this? And we examined different methodologies out there. And we ended up picking a methodology called SAFe, or Scaled Agile Framework. And what this did for us, specifically in our industry, it adds structure to Agile. And we've been taking it in pieces from the bottom up. So starting with just Scrum teams, putting more structure around that into these release trains, so on and so forth. We're now moving into the lean portfolio management concept and moving towards Agile investment philosophies of investing in capacity versus projects. But talk about a mindset shift. That's a big one in the organization. We've been funding projects for 30 years, and now we're talking about funding capacity tied to value, but that's a hard idea to understand. But what this did is it unlocked our ability to partner with our business. The business teams are part of the program increment planning. They're doing the prioritization. By the second time we had one of the agile ceremonies, the program increment planning, we had business partners speaking in the language of agile, which was fantastic. They were making priority decisions based upon the points of a story. That's unheard of. So that helped us engage them in the success of the program because they could see how iterative development and release was to their benefit versus waiting months and months and months for a project that may or may not deliver what they thought. So this was a game changer for us. And we're blazing a trail inside the company, looking to expand more and more and helping other groups within Pfizer expand this capability.
Yeah, I'd argue that it's a game changer for the pharmaceutical and life science industries in general. I don't think these kind of methodologies have been adopted widely. So you're blazing new paths in more ways than one.
Well, it's one of those things as well where we're doing a decent job with it. Our compliance team had asked us to help co-write or author a new version of our solution development lifecycle that builds this into it. So we're calling it an agile development lifecycle. And then by default, our GMP practices are just built into it with the tool sets and the automated testing. It is such a game changer for us from a productivity standpoint. We've literally seen 38% improvements in productivity. It's good stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Very impressive. How do you really measure and communicate? Well, you just talked about how you measure. 38% is a pretty good number. How do you communicate the success of some of these digital transformation efforts across an organization as extensive as yours? Obviously, that's key to building buy-in across the organization. How do you communicate those successes?
Well, it's a great opportunity to talk about some of those methods, right? So traditional methods of newsletters, we have those, email announcements and newsletters. We're getting better at actually writing the stories, though. So they're no longer this technically focused, hey, we released 1.2.4 of this capability. It's much more about the business value being created by whatever the capability might be. So those messages start to get out there more consistently, that leading the discussion with business value is great. But Pfizer's done a really good job of creating social media channels. So we use Yammer for social media internally. We have what's called a my channel, put in quotes. It's like an internal YouTube platform. And we've really been taking advantage of these. Our Pfizer Global Supply business is probably the top user of the Yammer capability. I can't keep up with the posts that they put out there because it's such a wide dispersed network. The only way for senior leadership to communicate with people down on the shop floor is through this type of platform. And that has given us a voice into that same group. We cross-post between different categories, whether it's a digital category or a manufacturing category, to celebrate successes both ways. And to have our business partners be the ones putting the message out, that takes it to a whole new level. The video capability, having testimonials from people on the shop floor that are benefiting from the work that they've put the effort into deploying with us, but they're seeing the benefits, means much more than somebody from an IT type organization saying, yes, trust me, this is going to create value for you. The other thing that's been a real game changer I didn't have a screenshot of is the augmented reality and virtual reality capabilities that we've been working with. We've done some augmented reality tours and virtual reality tours where we can remotely connect different locations together and take you through a digital twin tour of a facility, and then deep dive into an actual manufacturing suite and show off different capabilities, working towards the ability to be streaming live data into those experiences, which we're right on the cusp of that, which is really kind of cool. So with this travel restricted time we're in right now, it's the only way to get that kind of experience, and it's a lot of fun actually sometimes too.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a great way to communicate what you're doing across the organization. Any other best practices or lessons learned you can share in terms of when it comes to quickly proving out use cases and scaling them across the organization?
I think the first one is the old cliche, right? Fail fast. You definitely want to minimize losses as soon as you can. But
Sure.
with that, obviously, as everyone says, celebrate that failure and learn from it and really help the team that maybe didn't make it understand why they didn't make it and what we can do moving forward. That's been something that building in the desire to try is something that as a leader of a program I've been trying to do for the team, creating that environment where they can go be successful, breaking down barriers for the team to try. Every time someone comes to me with a wild idea, it's typically a yes, go try that. And oftentimes they don't understand why we didn't have a committee to try to decide that. I mean, decision making is important. And one of the philosophies we have is do something, right? Make a choice. Because by not making a choice, you are in effect making a choice. So, and if it doesn't work out, by the way, do something else. Try something different. You can always course correct as you go. So that's something that we've really spent a lot of time trying to embed into our culture. The other thing is from an upper management perspective is digital doesn't mean fast, right? So there was a preconceived notion in 2016. If you put the word digital on something, it was implemented in less than 3 months and had a 2-day payback period. Right. We're nowhere near, that is not even remotely what this world is about. It's much more about doing things methodically, planning out what that digital foundation looks like, spending the years it takes to put a data historian program in place to unlock shop floor data. And the reason it takes so long is automation layers are difficult to work with. They're difficult to change. You've got to find planned outages. You can't just put this stuff in. It's not a website that you're deploying, right? So you've got to methodically plan this out and think in 3 years, how am I going to benefit from this? And that's where we're at now. We've been plotting out those foundational layers, and the ability and the rate and pace of what we can do now is now going up exponentially because we've taken the time to build that foundation. Now, some might ask, how were you able to do that? And I typically will say enlightened leadership. There was a big level of trust placed in us for the investments being made with very minimal to low payback in the beginning. There was an intrinsic belief that this stuff made sense, even if people didn't understand or couldn't touch and feel what it was. There was this belief that, yes, what you're saying makes sense. Let's try that. And we have to thank our president of manufacturing and that entire leadership team for having that level of trust in making these investments as a partner with us in the digital world.
Yeah. Speaking of laying platform and getting the foundation in place, has that really come in handy in terms of this latest situation where we've had with the COVID-19 situation? Has that those investments you made really been proven out and helped in this new normal, as the overused phrase would say?
Right, it really is. As we're both doing this interview from home, right? I put this picture here. There's a Forbes article that came out last week, and our CEO is in the, to lead this industry in helping respond to this pandemic. And did our investments pay off? Yes, and I'll get to that in a second. But before I do that, if anyone has a chance to go out there and read what Albert Bourla has to say about what's going on with COVID-19 and the pandemic, it's a great story. It makes me extremely proud to work for Pfizer and in this industry. Years past, the industry gets a bad rap in certain areas, but some of the things that Albert's released, he's got a 5-point plan that he's published about sharing tools and insights, marshaling our internal resources to focus on this, using our drug development expertise to work with partners in other companies that might be able to benefit from that, offering up our manufacturing capacity, not just for our own potential vaccine candidates, but for other companies as well. That has a direct impact to what my team supports and does. And then also the 5th point is improving future response, so working with regulatory agencies. So when future issues arise with new viruses, the whole world has a better way to respond. It's extremely impressive, and I'm just very proud to be a part of this. But back to your specific question about what opportunity did we have with the investment we made. What's really interesting is any previous barrier to a deployment was removed, right? So we had some plans this year where we would take the Digital Operations Center had a plan to deploy to about 100 different work centers throughout the course of the year across, I think it was 10 plants. And I can tell you we're midway through the year, and we've deployed 350 work centers and 20 plants. In counting through the second half of the year, that's going to continue to go. And the reason for that is everyone knew what the capabilities could do. And what that one does in particular is gives me visibility to the shop floor operation. There are people, our plants have not shut down. We're socially distant and they're operating in a safe way. But that means not everyone can go into the plant. So if you're not an essential in-plant worker, you're doing your job from home. You might be a supervisor, you might have to understand what's going on still. These tools and these digital capabilities give you direct access to what's happening on that shop floor. So we're still having our tiered accountability lean manufacturing meetings because our visual management system is digitized. The system that we put in originally, it's a paper-based system. Like lean manufacturing is typically paper on walls. We've digitized all that. So that enables the plant lead, if he needs to work from home and understand what's going on, or all the different roles. So that's been the rapid uptake of that capability, which has given us an entrance into many other capabilities. A lot of the industrial Internet of Things capabilities are starting to pick up because of the data access that they provide to keep a process running in spec or to do predictive maintenance. The other one that was really kind of game changer was remote collaboration was rolled out from the time we signed a PO to the time we got it into the hands of people in 2 weeks. I've never seen anything like that before. Barriers to decisions, everything removed. Yes, go do this. It makes sense. And now hundreds of people are in these remote collaboration sessions. So when you're commissioning manufacturing equipment, sometimes you need experts from different locations in engineering, and they can now connect in, and third parties can come in and work together on making sure that process continues even during the pandemic. So it's amazing. And just one last point is, traditionally in IT, colleagues might not understand how their work contributes to the success of the company. It couldn't be any more different for us. Digital manufacturing, we are tied directly to trying to help manufacturing be successful, helping create capacity so that we can do more biomanufacturing specifically for vaccines. We are tied 100%, not just to the success of the company and our purpose, breakthroughs that change patient lives, but literally to help try and spread some solution for this pandemic. And that gets me really excited every day to play a tiny part in that process.
Yeah. Well, great. I have to say congratulations on all the work you're doing, and thank you on behalf of all of us for the work you're doing to keep those medicine operations running, manufacturing running in this socially distant environment, but also advancing the causes for a vaccine or potential treatments for this COVID-19 and pandemic. So thank you for that. Congratulations. And really appreciate all that you do, and we appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today as well and share some of the best practices that you've learned. Wanted to thank everybody for joining us today as well. Rockwell Automation for sponsoring the Transformational Leadership Awards, as well as sponsoring the airtime here at the DX Strategist Conference. So thank you very much. And Mike, really appreciate it. Congrats if you could convey it back to the rest of the Pfizer team using one of your robust social media or Yammer channels or whatever to the rest of the team. But congratulations. Please do so. It means a lot to all of us personal, as well as to see what you've done as an organization. So congrats. And this is Keith Larson, Smart Industry, signing off. And thanks again, Mike from Pfizer, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Keith.